So I remember the first time I drank. I guess it was maybe, well, the first time I got drunk. I think I'd stolen sips of my parents' beer here and there. And first of all, a little bit about my family history. Neither of my parents suffered from this disease. Both of my grandparents were alcoholics, and my grandmother on my grandfather on my mom's side had cirrhosis of the liver at 40 because he drank himself. And he was also the sheriff of the town, and he got a DUI in the town, one town over, as the sheriff of the town here. And so that was very much that was like his bottom. And for whatever reason, he just put it down, right? And that doesn't really happen that often, okay? But he was probably the meanest person I've ever met. Okay? Because he had no solution to his problem, which I'll talk about. Because his solution to our problem is drugs and alcohol. That's what I'm going to try to get across to you guys today, is that I have a problem sitting with myself. I have a problem being with Ty all alone in perfect peace and ease. It's very hard. Why is that? Well, because I suffer from the disease of alcoholism, from the disease of addiction. And the freedom that I can get of being in this shell, I seek through drugs and alcohol. When I finally find out, because see, the first time I got drunk, I was at my friend Big Nick's house. His parents were out of town. He was making screwdrivers. And I think I only had one. I had a tall one in a Dixie cup, and I got hammered. And I loved it. And I pulled my pants down, and I tried to pee on my friend. And that's what you do when you're in 8th grade and you're drunk, right? You're very immature. And that happened, and we were laughing and having a good time. Then we got his dad's 357 out in a residential neighborhood and started shooting him. And that's how I drank. For the very first time I drank, the very last time I drank. And nothing ever came of that situation, but that was it's just a metaphor for that's how things went for me. And I remember I came home and for dinner, because at this point, I'm still eating dinner as a family and stuff. I'm coming home, and the dinner plate is moving around like this, and I'm like, well, they're gonna know, but they never knew. They didn't know. And I was thinking to myself, I can't wait for that to happen again, because the way that I felt, I was calm. I felt comfortable in my own skin. I felt like closer to my friends. I felt connected, I guess is the right word. I felt connected to life. For the first time, I let my guard down. I was able to just go, and just be with me. And I didn't even know that was possible. Because my version of life, up until that point in time, was what it was. I hadn't experienced with chemicals yet or changing the way I felt. It was all just me based on my current reality. So, having discovered this, man, my wheels started turning, and I couldn't wait to try all kinds of stuff. Couldn't wait to smoke weed, couldn't wait to drink again, couldn't wait to do acid, couldn't wait to do all these things, mushrooms, and I did all those things. Very short time after that, And in high school, I played baseball, and my dad was a big jock, and he played all college sports, and so he really wanted me to play baseball. I started getting into drugs, and really that became paramount in my life, is changing the way I feel and becoming, getting outside of myself. Okay, and I hated high school. High school was not fun for me because I was so in fear. Because as someone that suffers from this disease, we have this. I had this self-centered fear of what everybody thinks of me, man. To the point to where I won't even try anything new. I'm so afraid of failing because I'm afraid of looking like I couldn't do something in front of anyone. So I wouldn't do it, right? I was afraid to ask girls out. Eventually I would do that, but it took everything within me to do it. I was not comfortable around people because I was so afraid of what they thought of me. And what took all that away was drinking. Doing drugs and drinking, I found an identity in that. I was the drug head in high school, though, so that happened because I couldn't hide it. I wanted to be messed up, and I wanted to do it every day. Because that's how I got along, and that's how that worked for me. It took that fear away, because here I was, I'm having to go, I'm growing up in North Louisiana, and, everybody dressed the same, everybody looks the same, everybody talks the same, and it's just like, and I don't know, I guess that's in high school everywhere, I don't know, but I'm kind of a weird guy. I wasn't like everybody else, and I couldn't really even be who I wanted to be. Because first of all, I didn't want to get beat up. right? I wanted to be the one doing the beating up, even though I never was really a fighter or anything like that. I've been in a few fights. I had a nemesis in high school, actually. I'm not going to mention his name in case he's watching this video, but we would always fight, me and this guy. Right? And I hated fighting. I don't like fighting, you know, but I do it. Why? Because everybody's watching me, and I can't look like a punk. That's why, because it's all about what you think of me. You know, what you think of me dictated all of my actions. And I think that's one thing today where I have freedom is that I can sit here and I hold your loved ones accountable. I get in there, I lock horns with them all the time, and we talk about real stuff, and I call them on their BS. And I know they're not going to like me for it. I know that they're going to be disappointed. They're going to get angry. They're going to, talk smack behind my back to everyone else. And that's fine. That's okay. I know that because when you're on the firing lines of this disease, you're going to take the arrows. That's just how it is. And I'm a little bit further down the road than they are. We're just exactly the same. I'm just a little bit further down the road. And I understand these things. And usually, like Jason was saying earlier, by the time they come full circle, they realize that. But that's one of the biggest gifts sobriety has given me is my ability to stand on my own, stand up for what I believe in, dress like I want to dress, be who I want to be, talk like I want to talk, represent the things that I believe in and that are good, not what you believe are good, and be like, here I am. I am who I am. You don't like it? Oh, sorry. That is foreign to me. This feeling this is all new. This is all new because I had never experienced that. The only way I could experience that, and it was just for brief amounts of time, was through drugs and alcohol. I've been in tons of car wrecks, I'm sure. The stories are all the same. My parents bought a safe. They had a safe in their own home for me. I'm sure there's a few of you that have been down that road. I don't know. But I found a way to get into that safe. You think they would just call the police. I think the reason why I went to 8 treatment centers was because they never would call the police on me. They enabled me. I didn't have to work. I stole money from my mom's business account. I memorized I tried to watch when they do the PIN number at the ATM so I could get the money out. I could still go back later and steal the ATM card. And why would I do this? Because I knew one thing. I didn't want to do this. I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't raised to, I was raised with the values and the morals of a good kid. I knew right from wrong, but when it came down to me getting what I needed to feel comfortable in my own skin, all that went out the window. And I could easily justify that for, I'm going to pay it back. I'm going to pay it back. I need it now. Because if you felt like I felt, you would never ask me to stop using drugs. That's the truth. And the part about this thing is, unfortunately, the symptoms of this disease affects everybody. And so people don't really have as much compassion, like I say for someone with cancer. Even though they're both chronic and progressive diseases, addiction and cancer. Right? Because I'm causing harm to you. I'm selfish. I'm manipulative, and all of these types of things, these behaviors that I sort of adapt to in order to protect the only thing that makes me feel comfortable with myself. And that doesn't mean that I'm not responsible for every single time that I went into my dad's wallet, because I am. And I've made amends for that. Because I'm not going to hide behind my disease anymore. I'm not going to use it as excuses. Because yes, I did do these things, and I'm coming back to you as a man, not with my tail between my legs, but to look you straight in the eyes and say, listen, I'm a man, I made a mistake, I suffer from the disease of addiction, I did these things. What can I do to make it right? And my job today is to be there for my parents. I call them once a week, we talk. My mom pushes my buttons more than anyone in the world. She installed the buttons. Right? And so, our relationship today, though, is completely different than what it used to be. I completely and utterly terrorized my parents. There's just no doubt about it. And I will forever be paying that back through a living amends. Because, I put them through, I'm aware of, I can't even imagine the terror that I put them through. Just the sleepless nights, the not knowing if I was going to die, all the car wrecks. I was in a terrible head-on collision car wreck where I was driving and I almost killed some people. And I got really lucky that I didn't. And this was actually the same day that I found out I had hepatitis C. So it was probably one of the worst days of my life. But I said, screw it. I went out drinking, got in this terrible wreck. And my parents had to come, be strong through that, and so the list just goes on and on in terms of all of the consequences that I've had. But it wasn't until I completely and utterly gave myself to this that I ever seen any results, because I was smarter than you are, a better looking than you are, and I can figure out a better way to do this thing, an easier way that I could tailor it to me, to suit my needs, not your needs, or not the way that the thousands of other people that have recovered. I'm going to do it a little different, because I am who I am. And that sort of thinking runs rampant with this disease. I am a unique little snowflake that I can do things the way that I want to do them. I know that you and you have to do it this way, but I'm not like that. I can do it this way over here, and I'm going to be just fine until I have an experience with it, relapse, and come back. Right? And I've been down every dead-end road there is just about to try to do this thing my way. And it wasn't until, like I said, I was in my mom's car and we were going to my hepatitis C appointment, and I couldn't even talk because I was crying so hard that at that moment I drew a line in the sand. I said, let's do this thing, whatever it takes. I went to treatment again, 7th, 8th time. I said, whatever it is, whatever you guys got aftercare sober living, I'm doing that. I'm doing that. First day, didn't even care. I was like, I'm done with this thing. Whatever you guys got, I'm doing it. I'm doing everything. And that's what I did. And I haven't had to take a drink since then. I haven't had to use any drugs since then. And so I'm going to kind of go over sort of what we teach here. And this is just basically, this thing on the back here is called the vicious cycle. But this is the basics of Alcoholics Anonymous, because this is a huge part of our program. The guys work all 12 steps while they're here. I was never, for me, this stuff, you could just go to the rooms of AA and learn this stuff. But it's going to take you probably a while. Depending on who your sponsor is, you might not ever even learn this type of information I'm going to share with you guys today. So this is sort of like an advanced level, get you educated about what AA is, and I'm not going to be able to be as thorough as I can based on my time, frame here. But I was never able to go to AA and stay sober long enough to string a week together. I mean, I could probably stay sober for one day. That's it. Before I went and I took a drink, and my mind tricked me into thinking that this time was going to be different. So coming to treatment was how I had to get separated out of the rat race, to separate me from my run that I was currently on, so I could have time to do the work. And a lot of guys are like that. Okay? So this is called the 3 legacies of Alcoholics Anonymous, the circle and triangle. Okay? And so we have 3 sides of this triangle. All right? This side over here, it's unity, service, and recovery, mind, body, and spirit. All right? So this is an ancient symbol meaning mind, body, and spirit, the circle and triangle. It used to be in the big book. They took it out in 1993 or 1994 for copyright reasons. Okay? Now, Al-Anon too. All right? I know some of you guys are out there on Al-Anon. All right? So the fellowship, that's going to meetings, having a home group. So most people are in this side of the triangle only. Okay? I've tried this for years, and I never got the results that I wanted. Okay? Just being in the fellowship side of the triangle is like going to the gym and drinking a cup of coffee and watching everybody else work out. Right? You're not actually doing the workout program. All right? Now, a lot of people think that's what it is. My parents think that's what it is. Remember, my parents dropped me off at my first AA meeting. What I did was run around the back of the building and sit there, smoke cigarettes for an hour, and then run back around. I was 19 years old. I finally got sober when I was 32. So all that time was me trying to do it my way. Right? To obviously no avail. Right? So having a home group, which is a group that you're accountable to each week, and if you're an Al-Anon, it's the same thing. A group of people that you're going to go to and be accountable to each week. Having a service position, because somebody's got to run the meeting. There's secretary, there's treasuries, there's literature chairperson, there's someone that picks the topic. There's all kinds of positions within that. And basically what that's doing is just getting you connected. Why? Because the lion is going to get the weak gazelle, the one that's on the outside. If you're in the middle of the herd, you're going to have a much better chance of fighting this thing. Right? So getting involved, getting connected, staying accountable. And guess what? If I'm not accountable, if I'm just showing up to meetings and sitting on the back row, it's real easy for me to say, you know what, tonight I'm not going to go. And nobody's ever going to know. Why? Because I'm not connected. I'm that guy that leaves early, comes in late and leaves early before anyone gets a chance to talk to me. So that's one side. That's one side of the deal here, okay? Service is the other side. That's sponsorship, going to hospitals and institutions and carrying the message. We have guys that come into our center and and spread experience, strength, and hope. That, hey, I've been through this thing. I've come out on the other side. I've got a wonderful life today. I used drugs and drank just like you did. I'm not doing that anymore. This is what I did. Okay? And these guys, if they come into our Cornerstone, if they stay long enough to come into our Cornerstone program, we take them down to Epic Detox down here, and they go and they spread hope. So it gives them sort of a jump start on being of service to others. You know, sharing my story, because that's my greatest asset today, is my experience with drugs and alcohol, so I can pass that on. I'm uniquely qualified. It's a little bit different when I talk to your loved one than when you talk to your loved one. Why? Because I've been there. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but most of you guys, it's a little bit different. My dad talking to me saying, hey, you just got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, turn over a new leaf, stop doing this shit, you know, and I'm saying, yeah, but you don't understand. You know, it's not that easy. I can't just stop doing that. So what do? I yell back at him, and we get in an argument. Because I'm frustrated, and I'm not quite sure why I'm doing what I'm doing. All right? So, over here we have living by spiritual principles, hospitals, institutions, and sponsoring. So, after I finish the 12 steps, what my job is to do is to pay it forward, to give it back, to start sponsoring other men in the program, and we're helping them work through the steps, based on my experience with the steps. Okay? And that's how this whole thing revolves. Okay? And then the third side of the triangle, the mind, the recovery, and this includes the 12 steps. This is where the real program of recovery happens. Okay? This is the process of the steps. And what we're doing is so addiction is centers in the brain. Okay? That's the area why it's called a disease. It's the major organ that it affects. Okay? And so, as a process of the steps, what happens is we recover from the seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Okay? So where I know that this next drink that I'm about to take, that I have an opportunity to drink, I know what's going to happen when I do that. I'm not in a delusion today that this time will be different, and that for whatever reason, after these years of sobriety, I'll be able to have a drink like a normal person. I'll go cut the grass, and then go sit on my porch and have a nice cold beer. I know that that's a crazy idea for me today. Now, if I stop doing the things that I need to do in my life on a daily basis, over a period of time, it seeps back in, all right? And I start thinking, you know what? I bet I could have that beer. You know, I bet I could. It's been so-and-so, and I start justifying it and thinking about it and thinking of different ways that I can get away from this. And this circle around it just speaks of wholeness, because it's a three-part disease, mind, body, and spirit, and so we have a three-part attack on it. Okay? Questions? All right. This is basically step one in a nutshell. So when you have the steps, and I should have had the steps brought in here. I don't want to do the talking here. It's usually in the other house. But basically, this is what's going on. When I discovered this, it changed everything. It changed everything. It put words, it put a language to what I've been experiencing that I've been unable to explain. When my dad said, why do you keep doing this? Why do you just pull yourself up by the bootstraps? I don't understand what's wrong with you. This is what was wrong with me, and I didn't know how to put it into words. Okay? So what I do is I punch holes in walls and yell and scream. Because that's how I dealt with, that was my coping skills. Okay? So, we'll start with this spiritual malady, or we can call it unmanageability. Okay? So, and unmanageability in terms, we're talking about in terms of step one, does not mean I can't pay my bills on time, I can't show up for work, I don't know how to change a tire, things like that. It's referring to this internal unmanageability. Okay, it's an internal condition. Alright? We could call it the bedevilment. So that thing that I experienced throughout my life, that self-centered fear I was talking about, that's the spiritual malady. That's unmanageability of the spirit. That's what we're talking about. Okay? And that's the problem. I use drugs and alcohol to recover, as my solution to this spiritual malady. So I could feel okay within my skin, I could talk to women easier, I would go to high school without all that self-centered fear of judgment and acceptance. That's, so, unmanageability of the spirit, all right? And also you can find this on page 52 of the big book, and it talks about the bedevilments, okay? And that's basically a very accurate description of unmanageability. It's being full of fear, okay, like I was describing. having trouble with my personal relationships, unable to control my emotional natures, being a prey to misery and depression, not seeming to be a real help to other people. All of these types of feelings. Drinking and using drugs took those away. Okay? I did not experience those things for a while. One day, I used and drank, and it didn't take it away anymore. That point in time is called the jumping off place. That's when recovery can really take hold, because as long as this is still working for me and I'm not having too many consequences, why am I going to change? As long as mommy and daddy keep fixing my mess and this feels good and I keep doing what I'm going to do, why? Why change? And that was my story. It's because my parents bailed me out of jail 8 times. Paid for rehab after rehab. I knew, well, I'll give this another shot and I'm just going to try to drink. I know mom and dad will pay for another rehab down the road. But then they pull a fast one on me and they have me in one of these state-run places. Right? We're not paying anymore. And at that point, I felt like, maybe I need to do something different, because this wasn't what I expected. So, this unmanageability, the spiritual malady, all right? And as you can see, the solution to that is the circle and triangle that we just went over, okay? This is the solution to this spiritual malady. Because really, this is what's happening here, is this, and that's where the therapy piece comes in, right? That's where the trauma piece comes in. It's because we're trying to work on this where I can get okay with myself, that I don't need drugs and alcohol to cope with life, okay? And so what happens is, after a period of time of me living in this, I start buying this lie. Like the first time I drank, I felt freedom from this for the first time. Man, I can't wait to drink again, okay? The mind remembers that. In fact, the disease of addiction hijacks the midbrain, the reptilian brain, your limbic system, that remembers pleasure, okay? And so, without even really thinking about it, okay, my brain is already remembering and gearing towards whenever I'm uncomfortable, I need the drugs and alcohol to change the way I feel. Whenever I get in a fight with mom and dad or my wife or whoever, I need the drugs and alcohol. Whenever I get laid off, I need the drugs and alcohol. Or whenever things are great, I need the drugs and alcohol. Whenever I get a raise, I need the drugs and alcohol. Okay? So, as my brain remembers this stuff and the obsession, okay, the difference, so I have the inability to really see the truth around it, okay? So let's say I've been drinking for 2 years and I keep buying this lie that this time will be different. Let's say I've got a DUI, I'm getting in fights, drinking is really incrementally ruining my life. And I keep buying this lie that this time will be different. This time I will control and enjoy it. You see, that's the kicker there. Okay, because people buy this illusion to the gates of insanity and death. Right? Literally, we just had a guy die. He was the 5th resident out of here to die. Okay, and I hope that makes it real for you, because this is definitely a life or death deal. It's not a joke anymore, And especially if your loved one has made it here to see me, we're close. This isn't anything to mess around with. So it's very important to understand this, to understand what's going on, especially, for the person who suffers from this disease. All right? Now, this obsession here, okay? So whenever I experience this unmanageability, the spiritual malady for a period of time, my brain today automatically goes, man, you know what? You could probably have a beer if you want on the grass. Or, you know what? Go get a prescription of Xanax. Or go get a prescription of Adderall. It's a prescription. You got a doctor that says, hey, here you go. Or maybe go get a prescription for medical marijuana. I trick myself into thinking this time will be different for whatever reason. Okay, but what happens is I find out once I take that first drink that I have the inability to control or moderate once I start. So it's really a 2-part deal of being powerless. First of all, I have a mind, right, that tricks me into thinking this time's going to be different. All right. Then I take the drink because I buy that lie, and I find out, hey, this isn't different than last time because I can't control the amount I'm taking. I'm drinking one after another, after another, after another, and the bar's closed down, and I'm banging on the bar saying, how did this happen again? Well, how it happened is my mind tricked me into doing it. It always starts with the mind. That's why it's a brain disease. Okay? Because my mind, and this thinking is not rational, obviously. Because everyone around me before I'm about to take a drink is like, no, don't do it. And I'm saying, guys, chill out. I got this. It's going to be different. Right? I just got out of rehab. It's going to be way different this time. right? And I tried that desperate experiment of the first drink again. And I find out I have the same results because these two work together, right? And so I find this, I have the inability, and I end up drinking myself drunk or using drugs excessively, and then I emerge remorseful. Something happens. I get arrested, I get a DUI, she leaves me, I lose my wallet. It could be the biggest things, it could be the small things. And I emerge remorseful, okay? And I'm like, guys, this isn't gonna happen again. I swear, this is it. This is the last time. I'm never gonna drink again. Or how about this one? Just come get me out. I swear to God, it's never gonna happen again. All right, whatever it is, I believe it. And I mean it. I mean it with everything within me. And I could pass a lie detector test. That's how much I mean it. But what happens? I have this firm resolution to never drink again, but then I just go back into my spiritual malady. I go back to my same dumpy life where I'm afraid of everything. I can't control my emotional natures. I'm depressed. I'm miserable. I feel like I don't amount to anything. I always feel not good enough. I'm full of shame. Then what? Well, hell, it's just a matter of time before I start thinking, well, maybe this time I'll try Adderall. Or maybe this time I'll just go buy $50 worth of crack and that'll be it. I won't spend any more money. Or maybe I'll just do one more shot. Just one more shot of dope. That's it. Just to get me over this little hump. But then what happens is, I have the inability to do it one time, man. And I ignite that dopamine pathway, and here I go. I'm off to the races again, the inability to control. So this thing just goes on and on and on and on, unless we do an intervention right here, right? Unless something changes right here, and I end up really digging deep, really being willing to do things differently, okay? And then that's when we bump up against this ego issue where I think I'm different and I don't have to do it this particular way. I think that if everyone in here would follow directions to the T, everybody would be sober. But the problem is, people don't do that. They don't do it, you know? And I understand that because I didn't do that, you know, until I did that. And it took a long time. It took a lot of pain and suffering and running into the dead ends to figure that out. Now this is so important, okay? So today, I know how much wiggle room I have. I know that I don't have a lot of wiggle room when I'm in my spiritual malady. So what do? I go to meetings, I sponsor other men in AA. I just started a meeting where everyone's going to work the steps all together and we'll hold each other accountable. We're going to do some other spiritual exercises along with it so we can all continue to grow spiritually because I've got to continue to be seeking my higher power, okay? And this is the first time I think I've mentioned God in this talk. And that is probably the single most important thing in my life. And the steps are basically a pathway to finding your higher power, whatever that is for you, okay? God is a personal thing, right? I don't speak, when I say the word God, I just say it because it's easier to say than higher power, right? And that's personal to everybody, okay? That's what makes AA not a religion, is that we don't worship one God, right? Your God can be whatever. Right? And that's perfectly fine. It's a personal thing. Okay? So, I know today that, based on my relationship with God, okay, I have the power to get up here and talk to you guys. Right? Without that fear of judgment and acceptance that I used to have. You know? I used to think that, so many things have changed for me. I mean, it's incredible. I used to think that I used so many drugs and drank myself into like a stupor, right? Scrambled eggs for a brain. I didn't really know that I was capable of going to college. I didn't know how smart I was. I didn't know any of these things. I thought that I was just going to be, I'm going to use drugs for the rest of my life. That's where I was, right? I'll just get on welfare and I'll just move somewhere and drink and do drugs all day long. That was my goal. You know, and maybe I lived past 27. You know, I was even like, whoa, Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin, then they died at 27, forever 27, man. I'll just be one of the, but however I need to justify it. I used to also tell myself, if things get any worse, I'll just kill myself. That was my options. If things get any, I'm gonna go ahead and do this one more, shoot dope one more time. And if things get any worse, I'll just kill myself. That was like my options in life. Today that sounds crazy and it's sad, but I guarantee you that some of your loved ones can sympathize, empathize with that. So this is step one in a nutshell. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol. I'm powerless in two ways. I'm powerless over the mental obsession and the physicality. Right? And that our lives have become unmanageable. So this is the problem. And the other 11 steps deal with the solution. All right. Okay. So when we get to step 2, which I wish I had the steps out here, is there any way we can, Brandon, you think you can grab the steps and hang them up out here somewhere for people to see? It's going to be helpful. We'll just do this. So when we get to step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Okay? And so when you get to step 2, it doesn't really matter if you understand what a power greater than yourself is. If you understand what God is. It doesn't matter at step 2. Okay? And what it's talking about is, if it came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, the most insane thing I can do is take another drink and expect a different result. The most insane thing I can do is leave this talk, go over to the pack-a-sack, and get a 22-ounce beer. Knowing what my experience with drinking is. Knowing that I'll have the inability to just have one. Thank you, Super Dave. That's Super Dave. So there. Came to believe a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. This is the insane thing about the disease. Is that right here, I still buy this lie after 10 years, being arrested 8 times, having hepatitis C, no one will play with me. I still buy the lie that this is going to be the answer to my problems. Getting high. It's going to be the answer. You know, it's crazy. It's insane. Okay? And so the idea in step 2 is this power greater than myself is going to restore me to sanity, meaning I can stand up here right here today and I know what would happen if I went and did that, right? It puts a block right here. It stops the cycle from happening. Okay? It restores me to sanity. Right? I remember one time I was at a family party, okay, and it was Christmas or something like that, and I told my parents that my mom's like, all right, Ty, we're not going to drink tonight. We're not going to drink. I'm like, yeah, okay, it's fine. I promise I won't be drinking tonight. And I think I had a few Xanax or something that I was going to take, and so I was like, she didn't know that, but either way, I was like, that's fine. But anyway, we get there, and I'm like, you know what, I can do this. I can do this. I'm going to have a few. I'm just going to have a few. All right? And so I did. I started drinking, and she's giving me the eye from across the room, and I knew she wouldn't say anything or make a scene in front of the rest of the family. And so we had that weird dynamic going, and I'm just like, she's getting mad at me, but then guess what happens? Man, I kick off that allergy because I bought this lie. This time I'll control and enjoy it. I'll control it by having 2 or 3 beers, and I'll enjoy it mingling and just relaxing. But what happened is it's like kicking the hornet's nest. Once I start drinking, man, I'm ready to get out there. I'm ready to just drink, right? And so what happened is I found myself in the bathroom, chugging beers, right? Hiding them underneath the cabinet. And so whoever cleaned the house over the party probably like, why the hell are these here? It was because of me, because I'm hiding my drinking. Because I bought this lie, right? That this time would be different. But I was so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable talking to people, my family members, even about my life, because I felt like a phony. I didn't know. I was so afraid of what you thought of me that I had to be drinking to even tell you about what's going on in my life. That's how bad it was. Okay? So, when you get to step 2, it doesn't really matter, because what happens is, as a process of the steps, we circle back to step 2. And at that point, that's when I get to see, that, man, yeah, I believe it, because today I'm waking up and I'm not wanting to run out and obsess. I'm not obsessing about getting high anymore. I'm not obsessing about drinking. That's how I know this thing is working. That's the proof that God is working in my life. Is that today I get up and I don't obsess. Okay? So step 3, made a decision to turn our will in our lives over to the care of God as we understand them. Made a decision to turn my thoughts and my actions over to the care of God. All right? So at this point, in a lot of your loved ones, this was my experience, I still don't know what God is at step 3. I mean, hell, I've only been in treatment for 3 weeks. I guess I have an idea about what you tell me what it is, but we're trying to facilitate an experience with their higher power here. Not to have an experience with my higher power, with their higher power, with their God. Okay? And so, to someone that doesn't know how to turn the will in their life over to the care of God at this point, you do an honest and thorough 4-step. Move on to step 4. That's how you can turn your will in your life over to the care of God. Is do a 4-step. Be searching and fearless in your moral inventory. Okay? Now, 4-step, this is where things really get heated up in the steps, because this is the first place you really have to start taking some action. Alright? So a 4-step is basically a resentment inventory, a sex inventory, and a list of fears. Alright? All of the things that have been screwing me up my whole life. Right? And it's a real dose of truth about myself, and the point of it is for me to see what my part is. What my patterns in my sex life are, my patterns in relationships, what my part is in all of my resentments, and to take a look at my fears. Okay, and put them all on paper, look at them, and analyze them with another person. Okay, and because the idea is this, like, over time, being a selfish and self-centered person, okay, just by nature, because I suffer from this thing, I'm always the most important person. I'm never at fault. You're always more to blame. I don't know if this sounds familiar to anybody. It's not all my fault, or it's so funny how many addicts have this experience of the teacher that's out to get them. She's out to get me. Out to get me. Because I'm never willing to look at my actions. What was I doing in class? I was talking. I wouldn't shut up. I wasn't doing my assignments. I'm throwing spitballs and doing all this other kind of stuff. And that's why she was always on my ass. It wasn't because I was just the perfect angel, but I had the inability to look at that. Ever. So it was always the cop's fault. I just got bad luck. I don't know why he pulled me over. I swear I wasn't drinking. That wasn't him. I don't know why they're doing this. But for whatever reason, I'm the one that suffered all the consequences out of all my friends. Because I have bad luck. But really, it's because I had a part in all that. I did something to provoke somebody to arrest me. Every time, right? Okay. So, step 4, I get to take a look at all this kind of stuff, man. I get to look at all my resentments. And so, and the big book tells us that resentments, they block me off from God. Okay? Resentments block me off from my higher power. Okay? Because when I'm thinking about my resentments, and a resentment means to relive or re-feel something. That's all it is. Okay? So when I'm reliving and re-feeling, like, let's say, what Jeff did to me, right? I'm thinking, man, I should have punched him. I should have done this. I should have done that. I can't believe I didn't say this to him once he said that to me. And am I being of service to others around me? Am I being helpful to anyone? Am I doing anything but wallowing in my own self-pity and my own selfishness? No. That's right. And so let's take that and multiply it by 50. I think I had 70 resentments when I came in. You think I'm able to sit with myself? Think I'm able to think clearly? Think of anybody else around me ever? No, I have a chip on my shoulder and everybody's to blame and man, this world sucks and blah, 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 blah. So what do? I get high. Screw them all. I've got a better plan than anybody. I'm just going to go get high. Let them deal with it. So I have this knack for letting myself off the hook time and time again, right? So I take this hard, and in the 5th step, what I do basically is I admit to God and myself and another human being the exact nature of my wrongs, and so I read my 4th step to another man in recovery. This will be their sponsor when they get out of here. Their loved one does it up to 3 times while they're here with different people sitting in front of them. And there's secrets that get let out during this process too. So there are some secrets I know in my life that caused a lot of shame, things that I did that I wasn't proud of, that I drank over. Okay? And this is an opportunity to have some humility, to walk through fear and admit these things to another person. Sometimes for the first time ever. And it can be very powerful. It's a very big deal. Okay? It's an honor to listen to someone's 5th step and to witness that and to listen to all that and to have them tell you their secrets. Now, if they don't feel comfortable telling their secrets to the first person, they have 2 other opportunities. And I always tell these guys, if they want to tell their secret, if they want to pull a staff member aside and tell us, that's fine. That's fine. As long as you dump it here. Okay? So step 6 and 7. So after I share my 5th step, I meditate for an hour. Okay? It's the 5th step meditation. In that time, there's specific instructions about what to do. Okay? And this is all directly out of the big book. This isn't the Augustine's recipe for sobriety. This is Alcoholics Anonymous recipe for sobriety that we stand behind 100%. And most of all, not all of our staff have gotten sober through this way. Okay? So that's why we stand behind it. But we didn't take any shortcuts. Okay? We went straight up the middle, straight up the mountain. Right? So, step 6 and 7, I'm looking at this list of character defects. Because see, as this guy's listening to me present my 4th step, in my 5th step, he's listening to me and writing down a list of these character defects that I have. Okay? And I'm taking these character defects into my meditation, and I'm seeing if I'm going to be willing, right? So we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. I look at it and see if I'm willing to have God remove these defects of character. When I say defects of character, I mean like being overly fearful, being selfish, being egotistical, being manipulative, my jealousy, being controlling, things like that. Right? Which I still have all of those things. Right? To a lesser degree, I would say. Sometimes. So, and then we get to step 7, and step 7 is humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings, and that's basically a prayer. It's a 7-step prayer. I'm not going to recite it right now for times. Well, it says, My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Okay? And after my hour of meditation and sitting with my resentments, sitting with this whole process, I get on my knees. At least that's what they told me to do, so that's what I did. All right? And I said that prayer. After about 2 weeks, my personal experience with this is that I started feeling lighter. I started feeling like I dumped some things off. Things were finally turning around for the first time in years. I remember I laughed, and it scared me. Because I didn't remember what that was like. I didn't remember, what life could be, and so, and I knew that something was real. I was like, is that God? I mean, this is the basis of my relationship with God, that laugh. Is this God in my life? And then all of a sudden, a couple more weeks went by, and I wasn't waking up thinking I'm getting high. In fact, I had no desire to get high. And so the process started working on me in that way. In the book, it says, we've had certain spiritual beliefs, but we begin to have a spiritual experience, and that's at step 5, right? And basically, a spiritual experience, based about what the big book describes it as, in Appendix 2, is a profound alteration in my reaction to life. That's it. A profound alteration in my reaction to life, which I definitely have. Here I am up here in front of you guys talking. Right? That is different than what I'm used to. When I get on the phone with my mom, we're not screaming and yelling at each other anymore. Right? I'm thinking of other people sometimes first in my life. Right? Integrity. I'm honest with people. These are the things that are. Why would I not be honest with people? Because then you know who I am, and I'm afraid for you to know who I am. Why? I don't know why. That's just how I am. That's how I was. That's so. When we get to step 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. So here I'm making another inventory, a list of people that I've harmed. And of course, if we're drug addicts, I've stolen from people, I've lied, I've cheated, I've done all these types of things. And it's like I lit a fire, and I never looked back. Just kept walking. And I turn around after I get sober. That's half the reason no one wants to sober up. It's because they got to turn around and look at the fire. Like, oh shit, I gotta put that out. I gotta face this now. It's not easy, and I have to face it sober. So, and everybody's got their own particular equation of what the fire is when they come in here. Okay, but we make this list because we're trusting this relationship with this higher power now. And I'm going to go out in my step 9. I'm going to make direct amends to people, except when it would injure them or others. Okay? And just to clear the air about what an amends is, and this will be probably be coming to you if you're sitting in this room. Okay? So I want to make sure they don't take any shortcuts. I'm going to tell you exactly how it should look. So, what it looks like is not me saying, hey, I'm very sorry for all the things that I've done, Dad, Mom, Dad, or wife, or whoever. Do you forgive me? That's not what it's like. It's me, okay, first of all, I'm making a note card with everything that I'm going to say on there. I'm going to run that by my sponsor, okay, to figure out, is this going to cause harm or not, right? And then I'm going to boil it down. I'm going to know what I'm going to say, and I'm going to go to you, And I'm on your time, not on my time, because that's how I've always been, right? Is I whirl into town, I knock on your door unannounced, I drop a bomb, and I leave, right? We're not going to do things like that anymore. Things are different. I'm on a different footing today. I'm asking you when you're available to sit down so we can chat, and I have an amends to make to you. And when I do that, I say, listen, I've seen that I have stolen from you. I've lied to you, I've kept you up countless nights. I've terrorized you. And then I say, is there anything I've missed? And I listen. All right? And I can even throw in there, how did this hurt you? And I don't argue. I don't say, that actually wasn't me, that was my brother. I listen. That's going to ruin everything. All right? I listen. I just take it. Right? And when they're done talking, I say, what can I do to make this right? Did you hear a sorry in there anywhere? No, there was no sorry. Because it's an action. An amends is an action. What can I do to make this right? Whatever you say to do, you can say, a lot of people say, hey, you know what, you can just keep doing what you're doing. Some people say, I want you to repay me for my wedding ring that you stole upon. I want you to repay me for this heirloom. I want you to do this or that. And you know what? I'm willing to do it at this point because I'm coming to you in the spirit of an amends. Okay? And I'm going to go back to my life and do this to everyone. This is the most profound thing for me in terms of self-esteem, getting rid of my shame and guilt over the things that I've done, being able to look people in the eye again, going back through my life, knocking on doors and looking people in the eye, not with my tail between my legs, but as a man who's made mistakes that suffers from a disease and making these amends. The most powerful part for me. It changed everything, right? And there's promises attached to the ninth step, okay? And so, and we're not promised this wonderful life is attached to the ninth step, okay? In the book, it's called The Promises, and they read it at all the meetings because it's attractive. And people want, man, this is available through AA? Yeah, but you got to work all the steps. It's not just coming to meetings. It's not sitting on the back row and then leaving early. That's not gonna, you're not gonna, this thing doesn't, it's also not sexually transmitted. Doesn't work that way either. Right? So, the amends, very important process, very life-changing. Everyone can benefit. Everyone in the world, if they made amends, the world would be a better place, right? Step 10, continue to take a personal inventory. We were wrong, promptly admitted it. All right? This is a spot check inventory. Why? Because I'm a drug addict and there's a disease with no cure. Unless you talk to the guy that does that treatment center out in California. You know what I'm talking about? I'm an addict. No, I'm not. Figured it out. So, at step 10, I'm going to get resentful again. Fear is going to pop up. I'm going to be dishonest. I'm going to be selfish again. So these 4 things crop up. I ask God to remove them. I talk to my sponsor about them. I find out what my part is. I turn my thoughts to someone I can help. That's the process of the 10th step. It's not. See, behind all the steps, there's specific instructions this isn't necessarily the instructions to the step. A lot of people take them for face value and they're selling themselves short. Okay? So with step 10, it's like a spot check inventory because guess what? When I start getting resentful again, when I start being selfish and dishonest, guess what's happening? I'm in my spiritual malady. And over a period of time, when those things bubble up, when those things add up and compound and pile up on each other, I start thinking of a different way to change the way I feel because I'm full of resentment. I'm feeling like a phony because I've been lying to everybody. I've been selfish, right? And I'm full of fear again. And those 4 things, they take me back out every single time. And so the 10th step is a spot check inventory so I can keep those things at bay and live a free life and not go back to drugs and alcohol. Very important. A lot of people do not pay attention to the 10th step. Okay? Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Now, prayer and meditation is something your loved ones do from the day when they get here. Every single day they do a prayer and meditation. This is one thing in my life that I do not miss. Okay, something that I have a morning ritual that I do every morning, and it gets me set for the day. I get grateful. I think about the life that I used to have, the life that I have today, things that I can give to the day. Sometimes I screw it all up, but it's one thing I do is I set that time aside to be with my higher power, to be with God. Okay, because that is where I get my strength and my power from. Okay, all right. The first thing that usually falls off is prayer and meditation. Our guys that go out to sober living, they didn't learn the discipline of that when they were here. Okay, and it's very hard to sit with yourself for 10 minutes. Try it. So think about it in your personal life. Do you think that some of you probably have tried meditation before. Do you think that you could do it every day for the rest of your life? Think about it. It's hard, man. It's not like a diet, though. We're talking about changing your life forever. It's a lifestyle change, is what this is. This is a way of life, a design for living that works for alcoholics. It works for drug addicts, too. Okay? So this isn't like, well, I'll do this for a little while, and then I'll go back to my old way of living. It's not going to work. It's just like a diet, right? Diets don't work, and we know that. You've got to change the way you eat forever. Now, step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Okay? And this is step 12. There's two parts to this. One part is sponsoring other men, right? Sponsoring guys, taking them back through the steps, helping them facilitate a spiritual awakening. God's really doing the work. All we're doing is we're pointing, right? We're pointing to the moon. All right? And then the second part of that, and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. What principles? Well, there's principles behind all the steps. There's lots of principles in the book. The ones that I like to focus on are integrity, honesty, perseverance, brotherly love. Okay? And there's plenty more, but those particular ones for me have, they've really helped me in all kinds of ways, and I really focus on those with the guys here. Following through with what I say I'm going to do. Nobody that gets here really is good at that. You start something, they never finish it. And we have to sometimes stay on them. I mean, if it's as easy as cleaning the kitchen, time and time and time again, you be in there and the guys just disappear. Where'd you go? We're cleaning the kitchen. Why are you outside smoking a cigarette right now? We're cleaning the kitchen. You started it. Let's finish it. Then we'll go smoke a cigarette. It doesn't work the other way around. So, and you know how people trust me today? You know how people call me when they need something? Because I do what I say I'm going to do. People that aren't even in recovery, people that don't struggle with the disease of alcoholism, they suck at that too, And so one thing that this has taught me, it's a gift is what I found to be in recovery, because I found the spiritual way of life that I would not have found before. I would not even know about any of this stuff. I would not be on a spiritual journey. I would be a very surface level person, because that's how I was. Full of fear, never living up to my potential, never trying anything new, never doing any of this types of stuff. I would just be in my little turtle shell but because I was an addict, because I'm an alcoholic, I've been almost forced to explore this stuff, okay? And thank God that I did, because it has changed my life miraculously. I live right by the beach. I'm getting married next month. I surf as much as I can. Okay, I never thought that I would be someone that surfs coming from Louisiana. You'd have to follow a barge. I think that's how they do it up there, right? And I'm hepatitis C free. I was able to get the treatment. It was all free for me to get it done. My life is just amazing. It really is. It keeps getting better every day. Yesterday I was in the water, and I was just thanking God that my life is what it is today. And what makes a difference? What's the difference between me and then someone, let's say, that dies from this thing, and the only difference is I took the action today. I did the things that I needed to do to stay sober, because I understand what happens when I don't. When I stop taking the action, this spiritual awakening that I've had, when I stop sponsoring men, it's like I start working steps backwards. I stop sponsoring men, I start praying and meditating, I stop taking inventory, I stop making my amends, I stop worrying about my character defects, I stop trusting God, and then I just get sick, and by that time, I need to change the way that I feel. So we're telling your loved ones the truth while they're here. The truth about their behaviors, the truth about you can't act like this. This is not acceptable. I tell them that all the time. I call them out on their selfishness. I call them out on their lack of integrity. Because, man, when I came in here, and a lot of times when they come in, we're asleep. We just don't know. We're just asleep to it. Because I've been living a certain way for so long. It's normal. But it's not normal. It's not acceptable. And it's not right. So this new way of living, I don't cause harm to people around me. And I think of others ahead of myself, sometimes, and as a result of that, man, I've been able to revolutionize my life, and so has Dave and Tom and all these men that I have the pleasure and honor to walk hand in hand in recovery. It's the fellowship of the Spirit, right? Not to be confused with the spirit of the fellowship. All right. So I'll be around all weekend. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. And I'm free to talk. Thank you.